Live from the One A Day Studios in Boston, this is the One A Day Podcast with your host, Joe Lowry.
And his opponent from Tocula, Mexico, weighing 244 pounds, here is Tito, Santana.
Hey everybody, Joe Lowry, One A Day, with the help of legendary ring announcer Howard Finkel. I'm extremely pleased to announce my very first guest on the One A Day podcast. He is a two-time Intercontinental Champion, a two-time World Tag Team Champion, and WWF's 1989 King of the Ring winner, which no doubt translates into a surefire Hall of Famer, class of 2004. Please welcome to the show, international wrestling sensation, Tito Santana.
What a day. It's so good to be here with you guys, and I want to thank all the fans who are listening. I love you guys.
All right. Tito, first off, I just want to thank you for appearing on the One A Day podcast.
Thank you so much. It's my honor, and I've been looking forward to this.
Excellent. And just like the first match of WrestleMania, you are the first guest on the One A Day podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's a small world, right?
It's a small world.
Indeed it is. All right, we're going to kick this right off. We're going to go back to October 22nd, 1979, Madison Square Garden. When did you find out that both yourself and Ivan Putski were going to dethrone the Wild Samoans for the then WWF Tag Team Championship?
So Ivan Putski came up to me and told me, he says, Tito, Vince McMahon Sr. came up and asked me if I would team up with you, and he says, it's my honor to team up with you, and
wow.
we ended up gelling pretty good as a team. He was a powerful man, and I was the wrestler.
Right. I mean, I remember watching Ivan Putski, and he was just pure toughness and power, and with your athleticism and your wrestling background, so you guys gelled pretty good for a tag team of that caliber.
Yes, we clicked pretty quick. We adjusted each other's strengths, and the people got with it. The people bought the tag team.
Exactly. I was always, growing up, Boston is my hometown, Boston Garden. I truly miss the old Boston Garden. I always never missed a show at the Boston Garden. I miss those monthly house shows. And it seems to me, based on your wrestling history and so forth, Boston has like maybe some type of attraction with you, because I was there that magical night, February 11th, 1984, you taking on the Magnificent Morocco for the Intercontinental title. What I remember was a TV camera was there, which was very rare for Boston back then. This is pre-cable and all that stuff. And, what can you tell me about that special night?
Well, it was, the place was packed.
Yeah, it was hot. Yep.
And Morocco was a great Intercontinental champion, and Boston had never seen a title change. And, we had a great match. Mm-hmm. The people exploded.
Oh, it went off the roof.
Then I find out that I really didn't understand what happened.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, I find out that they ran out of film.
Oh,
when does anybody run out of film?
Yeah, that is weird.
I just didn't think that at the moment the WWF really, because I was getting over pretty good with the fans.
Oh my God, you were hot. You were very hot. Yep.
My shirt was selling more than Hulk Hogan's at the moment.
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember the finish. It was a finish out of nowhere where I jumped up in the air and he went underneath, hit me, and I hooked him, and I did it like a sunset flip.
That's what I recall. It was almost like a sunset flip type finish.
Right. I don't think I've ever seen that before,
right,
or since. And it was a big explosion, and I was really disappointed, because if they would have been able to show that finish on television,
right,
which they were supposed to do that, and Vince never made a big deal out of it, so I figured he had something to do with it.
Right. Yeah, I just remember that night. It was Explosion Central. I mean, my ears were ringing on the way home, and it was just incredible. And I remember back in the old, back then, the Boston Globe used to print the results the next day in the little sports section, and there it was. Tito Santana defeats Magnificent Morocco, wins Intercontinental title. And personally, back then, titles didn't change hands at the Boston Garden. I want to say that was probably the first time a title had changed hands there, from what I recall.
Yes, it was the first time a title had changed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I dropped the belt with Randy Savage at the Boston Garden again. So.
Yep, I'm heading there. Don't worry.
I was the first two title changes in Boston.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, your feud with Greg Valentine was off the charts. Those cage matches were absolutely epic. But again, like I said, I was heading there already. You kind of beat me there. But here we are, February 8th, 1986, again at the Boston Garden. The crowd was hot. I do remember on the undercard, Bruno and Piper in a cage match, which was insane. I think it was the last match, but that place was on fire that night as well. This time, cable TV was around, and the local sports network, Nesson, New England Sports Network, would be teaming up with Gorilla Monsoon and, of course, your friend Jesse the Body Ventura doing commentary. What can you tell me about that match? I mean, that place was just electric, and we all know the end result there with the Macho Man reaching into his tights and grabbing whatever object, and then they actually filmed the object on TV, and they never edited it out. What can you tell me about that time?
Well, again, I went by then, and he was a great talent. He was a great heel. And
he was.
He was working with Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
The people hated the way he treated Elizabeth. Again, I felt like they sure didn't show the ending in my match, but they sure showed this one.
Right.
When I got beat, it didn't mean a lot, because they were able. People have to see their ending. People that were in Boston Gardens when I won the title,
mm-hmm.
well, they saw it, but the rest of the world didn't see it.
Right.
It would have been nice, if it would have happened, the same way for both title changes.
Exactly. No, I agree. I mean, is Boston Garden, is that one of your favorite arenas? When you were in the WWF, WWE, WWF?
Yeah, the Boston Gardens. I mean, the Boston Gardens, was an unbelievable place to wrestle at.
Yeah.
And the fans, I mean, when that place was packed, they used to make more noise than Madison Square Garden, with more people.
I agree.
They're great fans. I mean, if they liked you, they liked you. If they didn't like you, boy, they sure let you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I miss about the old Garden. I mean, the new arenas are all nice and comfortable and so forth, but they just don't retain the noise or like the old arenas. And when it's tough. With the new arenas nowadays, it seems like they have to pipe in the acoustics, and to me, that's not authentic at all. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a different ballgame. I don't think they're packing arenas anywhere. They cut the arenas in half and make it look like it's full. But back then, the Boston Garden was pretty close to capacity pretty much every month.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It was 16,000 strong every month. For all the years I went there and so forth. Now, all right, so when I became a wrestling fan, real brief story here. I always like to tell this. I always like to tell people that are in the industry how I became a wrestling fan. And really quick, there was a friend of mine a couple of blocks down from my street in the summer of '81 who had a paper route, and he asked me if I could do his paper route. And I said, of course, I'll do it for you. You're going to be gone a couple of weeks. That's fine. And so I did his paper route, and one Saturday morning I was delivering papers, and I had to collect like the weekly paper route you collect the money from the people. And this Saturday morning I said, oh, this person owes me money. So it was an elderly lady, so I asked her, I knocked on her door, and the first time I got introduced to the sport was I heard, when she opened the door, it was a screen door, it was a warm summer morning, and all I heard was this craziness going on. it was screaming and yelling and the crowd cheering and these two white-headed guys running around a ring, Vince McMahon's voice in the background, and I was looking at it, and the lady gave me the money, and I asked her, I go, what is that you're watching? And she goes, oh, that's Saturday Morning Wrestling. And I said, okay, what channel's it on? And she said Channel 56, which is the local affiliate down here. And I immediately ran home, and I was hooked ever since. And what I found out, the match I was watching was Tony Garea and Rick Martel taking on the Fabulous Moondogs, where they lost the titles. And this segues right into my next one. You know, fast forward a few years, whose idea was it for you and Rick Martel to team up at the time? It seemed to me like unlikely pairing. Martel was coming back from the AWA, doing his stint there and so forth, and you were still in the WWF and doing your thing, and you guys got together and became a, Strike Force, and it was unbelievable. Who thought of that pairing?
Well, I don't know if you remember, Rick Martel first teamed up with Tom Zink.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot what they called them. And, they were actually getting over pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, they had a great look to the team.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I don't know, that they had some kind of disagreement.
Ooh.
Rick Martel and Tom Zink, and, he just left.
Wow.
WWF, without giving a notice, he just left in the middle of the night.
Wow.
And then Vince McMahon came and asked me if I mind giving up with Rick Martel, and I said no, because they weren't doing anything with Tito Santana. I had dropped the Intercontinental title to Macho Man, and they really, I think we could have had a longer feud than we did.
Right.
They cut it short. So when something else was offered, of course I jumped on it.
Yeah.
But initially, Vince McMahon had mentioned that we were going to be the Border Patrol. That was going to be what they were going to call us. It's just here from the south.
The Border Patrol.
Martel is from the north.
Yeah, in Canada, yeah.
And we were going to be the Border Patrol. And, a couple of months earlier, there had been some Mexicans that were trying to get into the United States, and they were riding in a railroad car. And it was too hot, and I don't know if it was in Texas or Arizona, and they died of the heat.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
So I said, Vince, this happened. I believe it would kind of make us heels, with that name.
Exactly.
And he says, I agree. And then the next TV taping 3 weeks later, he said, you guys are going to be called Strike Force.
Wow.
Which was a great name. And, we ended up, we didn't last too long because something happened in his family and he had to leave.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
I thought we got over with the fans big.
I liked it. I liked the pairing. You guys are electric. Yep.
Yep.
Now, obviously, they the storyline was that there was that breakup with you and Martel later on, which capped off the feud between you and him. And a lot of people don't know this. I mean, I knew it, but back then, King of the Ring wasn't like as advertised as much as it is now. Yeah, now it's a pay-per-view. But back then, you became King of the Ring winner by defeating Rick Martel. And that's an accomplishment right there. And, how did you feel about being King of the Ring 1989?
It was good. But like you said, it was almost like any other match back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't as big. But, as far as the statistics nowadays, it's a big statistic, and people always bring that up. Yep,
it's a great statistic, and obviously jumping into the Hall of Fame here, 2004. What a class, 2004. I mean, was it ironic that Greg the Hammer Valentine, a person that you feuded with, Magnificent Morocco, a person you feuded with, and of course Jesse the Body Ventura, the one who gave you that acronym there, that name, the Don't Call Me Chico type thing. Was it a coincidence that all you guys were inducted at the same time?
I don't know that it was a coincidence, but I do know that it was a great team.
The
talent that was there was unbelievable, and name was bigger than the other one, and it was the first big
Sure.
Hall of Fame induction, and it was an honor for me to be part of that.
Yeah, and I remember watching Shawn Michaels. He inducted you. In his speech, they called it, I want to say, the Tito effect. Is that what he called it?
The Tito thing.
The Tito thing, yeah. And he said that was a very big thing. If a wrestler got his name and a moniker like that, saying, this is the Tito thing, or you have the Tito thing, that's a big deal. And, that you should be proud of that.
Yeah, I am. And like I said, I had never heard it. I never know that they were talking about me. And, Razor Ramon wanted to be, have the same type of career that I had, and he went on to have an unbelievable career.
Right. I mean, all right. So we'll switch gears a little bit now. You have a new book out. It's called "Don't Call Me Chico," which I love the title. Now, it was co-written by yourself and Kenny Casanova, correct?
Yes.
Now, can you give the audience a little piece of what's inside those pages? I mean, I know you can't tell us all because we got to buy the book and so forth, but can you just tell us a little bit what's inside?
Well, I came from my parents were migrants and we were migrant workers, and I started off with I started working as a migrant in the fields from the age of 7, and we used to go from Texas to Indiana to Iowa to Minnesota to work, do migrant work in the fields.
Right. So
I talk about that, and I talk about how I got involved in sports, how education became important in my life. My 8th grade gym teacher was a big influence in my life, and that's why I'm in education now, because I wanted to be an influence on somebody's life, and I'm in education for 23 years, and I feel that I've made a difference on some kids, the way they respond to me.
Yep.
So I talk about my education. I talk how I got into college football, and I ended up playing football, at West Texas State. And the team was Tully Blanchard and.
That's amazing. That is amazing, right there. That Tully Blanchard and you were together there. That's incredible.
Yeah, and so was the $1 Million Man.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. They started talking to me about becoming a professional wrestler. Tully did, because his father was a promoter in San Antonio.
Yep.
I wasn't interested. I wasn't a wrestling fan. I wasn't interested. I was getting letters from the NFL, so I ended up signing as a free agent with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
And, I was there for 10 weeks. Then I went to Canada. I played a year and a half in Canada.
Yep.
Then I started when Tully graduated. I was a little bit ahead of Tully.
Yep.
Then we both went to Florida and started together in 1977.
Wow.
And then I talked about, a lot of all my experiences, good and bad experiences that I had in professional wrestling. And I ended up talking about my family and how I became a school teacher, and pretty much to the end of my career.
Right. Now, you were trained by Hiro Matsuda, correct?
Yes, I was trained by Hiro Matsuda in Tampa, Florida.
Wow. How was he training with? How was that training?
Well, he was tough. I mean, as a matter of fact, me and Barry Horowitz were breaking in at the same time.
Okay.
Not Barry Horowitz, Barry Orton, Bob Orton.
Oh, Bob Orton. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and his father was still, Bob Orton Senior was still wrestling, and he would get into the ring and train us a little bit too.
Right. Wow.
Hiro Matsuda, you have to earn his respect. He was a Japanese wrestler who could tie you up in knots, and he tried to make you quit, and you have to earn the right to keep coming. If you kept coming back, and after a while, okay, this guy's going to be okay, and
wow.
And then you were ordained and became part of the fraternity of professional wrestling.
Yep, that's usually how it is, right? Earning your keep there. Yep. Excellent. Now, going back to the time when I became a wrestling fan, you were actually in the AWA back then, between like 81, 80, 82, somewhere around there?
80, 81, and part of 82.
Yeah, and that's when I saw you in the wrestling magazine and so forth. And a lot of people probably don't know this, but you actually teamed up with Rick Martel back then for a little bit.
Yes, we ended up teaming up. going up against the high flyers.
Oh, wow.
Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne, which was a great babyface team.
Yep.
And we used to have some great matches there also. But we did it. You know, that experience that we had working together in the AWA for a few months made the transition of our tech team really easy when we became Strike Force.
Yep. Now, I remember when cable came around my town, I loved it when cable came down because all of a sudden I got a dose. My Saturdays changed forever when cable came to town because not only did I have the Saturday morning wrestling for the WWF back then, but from 6:05 to 8:05 that night, I had Georgia Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley, great guy, great announcer. And one of my first episodes I watched, you were on there. You actually fought. And that was my first time seeing you wrestle. And I was amazed. And, you know, what was it like working for Georgia Championship Wrestling back then? Because it seemed like they almost had like I want to say like that shuttle bus effect. If you weren't in the WWF at the time, next thing you know, you showed up on Georgia Championship Wrestling. Because I did see Morocco down there a couple of times. Piper was just coming around and so forth. But what was it like working for Georgia Championship Wrestling?
Well, Ted Turner, of course, was the owner, and he would come around, you know, and listen to our interviews.
Right.
But, you know, I was just getting started. To me, the South, you know, had great wrestling. You know, you'd go, it was a smaller territory. It was mostly in Georgia, and but the talent, because of the network, you know, the cable, a lot of people wanted to be there because, you know, you got notoriety all over the world.
Sure,
you know,
sure,
with that cable.
Yep. And the same thing happened with World Class Championship Wrestling and so forth. I mean, it seemed like Saturday was the day for wrestling if you wanted to get caught up, and that was definitely my day to not do anything but watch wrestling. But you know, so again, as a fan of this great sport, WrestleMania comes around, first time March '85. You, of course, kicked off the actual event by taking on the Masked Executioner, which we all know now is Playboy Buddy Rose. And, you know, what were your thoughts about WrestleMania at that time? I mean, a lot of stories are out there that people had their doubts this would work. You're mixing entertainment, Hollywood with wrestling and so forth. And what were your thoughts on, being in WrestleMania in the first match and your overall thoughts of the event?
Well, we knew the event was going to be big. We knew that Vince McMahon had invested everything that he had. That's what he told us. From what I understand, he even borrowed some money, you know.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true. But he told us, you know, this is the make or break. You know, we're either going to make it or we're going to sink.
Yeah.
And, you know, then all the names that were started getting on to the WrestleMania 1. A lot of the wrestlers weren't very happy because we didn't think we needed Mr. T. We didn't think we needed, you know, Muhammad Ali to draw on.
Yeah.
You know, and we knew that they were going to be making a lot more money than most of us.
Oh wow, that's right. Yeah.
Happy,
yeah.
You know, but you know, we were professionals. We always went out there and did our best. I had my feud with Greg the Hammer Valentine at the time was probably as hot as anything in the WWF.
Yeah.
Or WWE.
Yep.
And I was really disappointed because I figured that I should have been one of the main bouts in the card.
I thought that too back then.
Yeah. Instead, I was the opening match.
Yeah.
And when I found out I was the opening match, you know, I was the curtain jerker. You know, you know, the opening match, you know, it's for somebody who's just getting started.
Right.
So I wasn't very happy. So I was betting just while the national anthem was going on. I was standing behind the curtain, ready to, you know, just peeking through the curtain, waiting to go outside, waiting to go out to my match.
Right.
And Vince came out to me and he says, there's a reason why you're number one. You're on the first match. He says, I need somebody who can go out there and get the people out their ass.
Yeah.
And you know, then I had a completely different outlook, you know, of why I was wrestling on the first match. You know, I became somewhat important for how to set the tempo for the rest of the night, and I believe I went out and did it. You know, it was unbelievable to step out there and the fans were ready. I mean, they were ready.
Yeah. Now, my little WrestleMania story goes to I used to play. Everybody remembers that WrestleMania was actually on a Sunday afternoon on closed circuit TV. This is pre-cable, obviously, so you had to buy a ticket and go to like the arena to watch it. Which, to me, that was a foreign concept because, okay, I'm buying a ticket to watch TV, but that's a different story. But what I did, I used to play street hockey as a kid on Sundays. And at this point, I told my parents I was going to play street hockey. And what happened was I ditched my hockey stick around the corner, ran down the street, hopped on the train, and went to watch WrestleMania. And on the way out, the news people were there, and they interviewed me. And I'd figure out what the interview was about. How did I like the show and so forth? And I told everybody how it was, thinking I would never get on TV because they were interviewing a million people. And so I get home, and my parents are like, yeah, we're gonna go out to dinner and all that stuff. I'm like, okay. They're like, how was street hockey? Because my parents thought I was playing street hockey, and next thing you know, everyone comes in and they're like, oh, Joey was on TV. What was Joey doing on TV? Oh my God. And they both looked at me like, I thought you were playing street hockey. And I said, nope, I snuck off to Boston to see WrestleMania. And that's the kind of fan I was back then. I just, it was a great time to be a fan, to do things like that.
How old were you?
I was, when WrestleMania came out, I think I was turning 14 at the time. Yep. Yep. I'm a youngin. Well, I'm not young now, but I was back then. But I mean,
that was pretty brave for you to jump on the.
Yep.
Well, I guess you were used to getting on the train, right?
Yeah, but I never went alone. I was always with somebody. Nobody knew I was going, not even my friends. I didn't show up to street hockey. Everybody was looking for me. I just had to keep it on the down low for everybody in case my parents found out I wasn't playing street hockey. People didn't have to know where I was at the time. So, but we laugh about it now because I remember sitting in that restaurant and my parents are looking at me with the whitest face, like, where were you? And everyone's like, oh, he's on TV. And they were happy I was on TV, and then they weren't happy because I snuck off to go watch wrestling at the Garden by myself. So I always try to share that story. I mean, that's just the type of fan I was back then. It was people like you that made me that fan. I wanted to see you guys in action, and I did whatever it took to get there. So that's what I did.
Well, the wrestling back then was fantastic.
It was. It was.
Everybody was a great performer. We'd all go out there to try to steal the show.
Yeah, my ears always rang on the way home. I'll never forget that sound in my ears, that constant ringing. It was nonstop from the first match to the last match. Maybe at halftime or intermission it slowed down, but even then, back then, they did the intermission. They would announce the card for the following month, and that got the crowd riled up. So that kept everybody going, all night long. So it was a great time, great time to be a fan and so forth. I loved it. So you're a school teacher now. I know we touched upon that a little bit now. First off, thank you for being a school teacher. I know it's very tough to be a school teacher. I know I had 3 kids, all grown up now. I praise the school teachers. I think, I don't want to say they're undervalued or whatever, but they just don't get the recognition that they should. For a person such as yourself to go out there and make a difference in someone's life, that is huge. That is absolutely huge. And you try to balance it, professional athlete on one hand, school teacher on the other. How do you do that?
Well, family and kids have always been important to me,
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. Teachers, everybody, including politicians and parents, talk about how important teachers are. And then when it comes down to, here with the stuff that we're going on with the pandemic and the loss of jobs and everything that's going on, when they're going to cut, New Jersey's not getting the funds that they need to be able to pay, teachers, police, firemen,
right,
whatever else they need the money for.
Sure.
It's always, it's always the teachers that get cut first, and police and firemen, And I just, everybody talks about how important we are, and not that important according to the federal politicians.
Yeah, it should be the opposite. I know it should be the opposite.
Yeah, it's going to disappoint me, and especially now we're doing virtual teaching, and to keep the kids motivated.
Yep.
I get up I'm on my computer from 8 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I don't get done till 5:30, 6 o'clock at night.
Wow.
People don't realize, parents here think teachers aren't doing anything.
No, that's wrong.
We're chasing, writing emails, chasing the kids to do the work that we assign,
right.
And, we just don't get the credit.
No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, and God love you, Tito. To do something like that is amazing, and like you said, nobody knows the sacrifice. I mean, growing up, yep, I did this. I loved my school teachers and so forth. We got along great, but watching my kids grow up in the similar school system, and some of the same teachers were still there, and just the appreciation I got being a parent, as well as knowing that they were still there doing the work, shaping the minds and trying to be role models and not trying to keep kids out of trouble and so forth. It's so tough. It's really tough, and my hat's off to every one of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good stuff. Now, your children, you got boys that played football, I do believe, right?
I had two of my boys played football,
yeah,
and they were pretty successful. None of them went on to play college. My oldest one had a scholarship, and he didn't want to play anymore. He said, "Dad, I'm not going to play professional football, and I'm not big enough, and I'm going to go to college and enjoy my college experience." And I said, "Okay."
Great.
It kind of hurt a little bit because I ended up having to pay the full tuition. Where he had a football scholarship.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And my youngest son, the same thing. He was going to play in James Madison. Yep. And first day of practice, he tore up his hamstring.
Ooh.
And he had trouble with the hamstring the summer before.
Okay.
And he said, "Dad, I don't want to play anymore." And the same thing, he had a full scholarship, and I said, "Okay." My middle son went to Princeton, and he was mostly into the arts. He was more musical.
Yep. They all got their own path. Right. Yep.
Yeah, but they all got a great education. They're all doing really good.
Great.
My oldest son's a lawyer.
Nice.
My middle son lives in Africa right now doing human rights work.
Excellent.
And my little guy, he works for a tech company in New York, and he's really doing good.
And everybody's healthy, right?
Everybody's healthy.
That's good.
And, out of drugs and good leaders in the places that they live at.
Well, you did a good job. You should be proud.
I am.
You sound like I got three myself, and my youngest is, they're all great. And you talk about different paths. One's a nurse now, a flight nurse, and my other one who played college basketball on a scholarship, such as your son, of a sports scholarship. She got an accelerated master's, and now she's working for a virtual security firm, doing accounting and so forth. So yeah, I mean, it's just great to see them, do what they want to do and so forth. So very proud of them as well.
It's amazing how they all go their different ways, right? I mean, they raise them with the same rules, and they all go a different way.
Exactly. So to jump back into the wrestling arena a bit, 1991, you come back to the WWF back then, and the El Matador gimmick. What did you think of that gimmick overall? Were you into it, or were you not? Did you do it just to have it, or what were your thoughts on being the El Matador?
Well, by the time 1991 rolled around, I wasn't very happy with the way I was being used.
Right.
I had several meetings with Vince, and Vince says, "Well, I'm not quite done with you." He says, "What do you think about going to Mexico and learning how to be a matador?" And I said, "Well, if it's going to give me another run and a chance to make some money, I'll do it." So I ended up going to the place in Mexico right across San Diego, and I was there for a while, and I got trained to be a matador.
Wow.
I never liked the gimmick. You know, I didn't think Tito Santana needed a gimmick. I think Tito Santana was over by himself.
I didn't think he needed a gimmick.
Yeah, and most of the fans feel the same way.
Right.
And he made me, you know, we're going to give you another big run. I was supposed to come out of that. I don't know if you remember the vignettes before I came.
Oh yeah, yep. That was the whole thing, and the build-up and everything. That's something they don't do anymore, really much of. But yes, I do recall the vignettes. They were awesome. They helped. They promoted you, sure.
Yeah. So I was supposed to come out with a big feud with the $1 Million Man, and then all of a sudden they dropped the feud.
Wow.
You know, over a period of time, and I said, how are you guys planning to promote El Matador?
Right.
And he said, well, why don't you call the merchandising department? Vince told me that, and I called the merchandising department, and they said, we're making a Matador figure. And I said, anything else? And they said, no. So I told my wife, I said, they're not going to they don't have any plans for El Matador. And sure enough, you know, nothing was done. You know, before you know it, I'm just another one of the guys.
Yeah.
And I quit shortly after that.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times, really. And then again, with your El Matador gimmick, you returned you did a WrestleMania match, and again, you kicked off the WrestleMania with Shawn Michaels.
That was I wish I would have had more time wrestling Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that match when they brought us. I don't know if you're a wrestling fan, you probably heard this.
Yeah.
They bring us to the middle of the ring, and I'm talking to Shawn Michaels, and I say, Shawn, you got a booger in your nose. And Shawn Michaels walks away, and he wipes his nose, and I said, he comes back, and I said, you got it. but if you look at that, you know, you can read my lips, and you can tell what I told him.
Well, guess what I'm going to do right after this interview? I'm going to go back and see what happened at the Hoochie Dome in Indianapolis that night.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, a couple of quick questions. Real quick, it's kind of like a word association thing. What would you consider, looking back, what your favorite match was?
Probably the cage match against Greg the Hammer Valentine in Baltimore.
Yeah. Is that due to the fact the crowd? What makes that your favorite match? Was it all the elements combined into one?
Yeah, I mean, I've been chasing. Greg Valentine and I have the longest feud in the history of the WWF. We've been with each other.
It was a while.
Times of return matches, and you know, people bought everything that we were doing. We were selling out.
Wow.
Big arenas without Hulk Hogan being on the card.
Right.
And that was the first time that was happening. So, you know, for the combination, you know, like finally we were going to settle. But, you know, the angle that we had, you know, I truly had knee surgery.
Yeah.
So people really bought into it. And then the matches that we had, we used to go out there and beat the crap out of each other.
Right. They were great matches. Yeah, they were great matches. And to me, you guys had chemistry. Would you consider that Greg the Hammer Valentine as someone you had the best chemistry with in the ring, or is there somebody else out there that you did?
Well, I believe we had great chemistry because of the feud. But you know, I had great chemistry with Mr. Wonderful. You know, if anybody was to ask me who I would want to wrestle, Mr. Wonderful and I, because we kind of had similar styles, and we were, you know, like pit bulls going out there, and you know.
He was a great athlete. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, you talk about Vince McMahon a lot, and you know, WrestleMania, pre-WrestleMania, post-WrestleMania, all that stuff. What is your relationship like? If you were to see Vince McMahon today, would you want to say anything to him? What's your relationship? What are your thoughts on Vince McMahon?
Well, I think he's a great business guy.
Yep.
You know, professional wrestling is everything to him. He has a handful of wrestlers that draw the money for him. And I was lucky that I was in that group for quite a few years.
Yep.
And he makes you feel like you're the most important person in the world.
Yep.
But when he's done with you, he's done with you.
Right. On a business, you mean on a business side, right?
Yeah, on the business side.
Okay.
If he was to see me on the street, I'm sure we'd go and give each other a big hug. And,
Yeah.
he's a nice person, and I don't have anything bad to say.
Good.
About Vince. I was very lucky that I was in a great position, but nothing lasts forever.
Right. Exactly. Now, is there ever a chance that you guys could reunite and maybe to come together with something? I know you did some Spanish announcing for the Federation back in the day, but would there be ever an open door for you to come back in and do something, maybe even at the Performance Center or something like that? I'm just trying to think down the road, or if you were able to do something like that, would you do that?
Maybe, it appears in the ring just to announce somebody, but, they thought years back they tried to get me to come back, and I just wasn't interested,
Really?
I was done with traveling. I was done with the business, as far as, the big time and being on the road. And,
Sure.
there was a lot of pressure, being in professional wrestling. There's a lot more pressure than meets the eye. And,
Wow.
I just, when I left, I was happy. I was worried because when you're there, you think that there's nothing else you can do but wrestle, and
Right.
and you realize after a while, you can make it. There's other way to make
Sure.
make a living besides wrestling.
That is true.
For me.
That is true. Now, you said they tried to bring you back in what capacity were they trying to bring you back in? As a business agent or announcer, or?
They tried to bring me back as a business agent.
Oh, okay.
And, I was not interested. I'd have to be on the road.
Yep, exactly. Kind of like babysitting, right? Isn't that kind of like babysitting? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Right, yeah. Big time babysitting.
Yep. Okay.
And they tried to bring me to come wrestle. Pat Patterson told me, we'd like for you to come in and do some TV matches. We'll give you some wins, at the beginning, and then you'd have to do the favor for somebody else. And,
Right.
again, I told him, I said, I'm not interested.
Right.
And,
Wow.
I don't know if you remember the first WrestleMania in Giant Stadium. They tried to get me to do a Raw, get in the ring in Raw in Buffalo. They had a Raw the Monday night before WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was good. Yep.
And I was not interested in, I just haven't been interested in going back.
Yeah, it's a different sport. It's different now. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
You talk about the pomp and circumstance of before. It's probably on steroids at this point. The matches are secondary almost to me. They are, anyways. It's not like back when you were around in your heyday. The matches told the story. All the other stuff was the build-up. Now it seems like it's the opposite. All the stuff around it is the build-up, and not the build-up, but the match. And it's like it's opposite. It's almost like Bizarro World now. It's like, how did that happen?
Back then was wrestling, and now it's a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. It is a TV show. I get it. Yep, you're exactly right. So, just a hypothetical question here. If the 1980, I'll say 85, Tito Santana were wrestling today, who would that 1985 Tito Santana like to get in the ring with?
Well, if I was wrestling today, probably the only guy that I just feel comfortable getting in the ring with is Orton.
Really?
Bob Orton.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. You talk about Randy Orton's dad, right?
No, I'm talking about Randy Orton.
Oh, Randy Orton. I'm sorry. I thought you said Bob Orton. So Randy Orton. Why? What's the attraction of Randy? Just out of all the people, what's Randy's got that you would like to do?
Well, looking at him, he's the guy that I think you could have an old school wrestling match. Where you could tell a story and get the people into the match. The way we used to be able to get into our matches back then.
Yeah. He's great on the mic. That is for sure. He can build a promo.
Yeah, he is.
Even to say, well, I guess as a third-generation wrestler, he should be, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't even know this as well, but you were involved in the formative years, I would say, with ECW.
Yes. When I stopped wrestling in the WWF, they brought me into ECW, and they had a tournament for the ECW Championship title.
Yeah.
I ended up winning the title, and I ended up again beating Don Morocco because he was the one carrying the title at the time.
There are no coincidences.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I went to ECW, you know, it was in Philadelphia, and I had, you know, I saw where the dressing room was completely different.
Yeah.
People who didn't belong in the business were in the dressing room and walking in and out, and I just didn't think it was being run very, very professional. So
right.
I just didn't have any desire to go back. I never defended the title, you know.
Wow.
Then just gave it to somebody else.
Now, was Paul Heyman running it then? Because I didn't watch it then.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
Paul was part of it, yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get ECW around here until later on, but I mean, again, the wrestling magazines I had to keep up with to see what was going on, and I remember that storyline, and I'm like, what is ECW? What is that all about? And then finally it came on. It used to be on like 1 a.m. around here. They didn't have a great time slot, but you know, obviously we know what happened after that. But so fast forwarding again, WCW 2000, January 10th. It looks like you made a one-time appearance in WCW. You defeated Jeff Jarrett in a dungeon match on Nitro. What was that all about? Was that a one and done? Were you wrestling for them for a while? Were you in talks with them? Because I'm assuming this is on the tail end of when Vince was coming in pretty soon to take over.
No, the WCW brought me and I believe Jimmy Snuka and George the Animal Steel that night.
Oh wow!
And he wrestled all three of us, and all three of us beat him that night.
Wow, that's incredible.
WCW did try to get me to go there, you know. But I wasn't interested in going on the road anymore. Right.
That's incredible. I mean, when I read the bio and all that stuff, and I'm like, WCW, my goodness. Like, I mean, is there a company you haven't wrestled for?
Pretty much. I pretty much wrestled everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you're an international sensation. I mean, you seem to have done it all, and rightfully so, because you are now in the Hall of Fame. You're also in the Spanish Hall of Fame Pro Wrestling, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yep, and let me see. You also, real quickly, you in Canada, you played for the BC Lions, correct? Did you already mention that?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah. How was that experience?
Well, it was, you know, a little different. You know, I went from being with the Chiefs, and at the time they had, I think, 53 players to a team. And in Canada, the total number of players was 33. And I believe it was like 13 Americans and 20 Canadians. And, you know, it was professional football, but, you know, it wasn't quite up to the NFL,
right.
You know, ratings by any means.
Nope, I agree.
To me, it was a good opportunity for me to go play football in Canada.
Awesome. So one last question. Seeing that you would like to wrestle Randy Orton, if the old Tito Santana of 85 would like to wrestle Randy Orton, what arena would you like to wrestle him at?
What arena?
Any arena, closed, whatever, open.
Probably, I would like to wrestle probably Los Angeles, California.
Wow, okay.
You know, a lot of Hispanics there, and I think it would be a big draw for them.
Any particular arena, like the Coliseum or Staples Center?
Well, probably the Boston Gardens. You know, would be a good place to come back and have a meaningful match.
Guess who would buy the first ticket to see that match? So with the current situation with the pandemic and so forth, and obviously a lot of wrestling venues being put on hold, what's the summer going to look like for Tito Santana?
Well, I probably going to be able to relax a little bit more and not worry about being on the road, because I definitely don't want to take any chances being in big crowds.
Right.
You know, it's not worth taking a chance. You know, the virus is still out there, and you know, we still need to keep the distance and wear the masks. And you know, I'm not going to risk. I did have the virus early on, towards the end of March. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It being the butt for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
It wasn't easy, and I was lucky that I was in pretty good health-wise. I was in pretty good shape, and I think it's the reason that I recovered as quick as I did.
Yeah. Well, God bless you. And you're okay now.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah,
Okay.
thank God.
Did you have to quarantine at all?
Yeah, I quarantined in my house.
Right. I mean, self-quarantine, like you had to isolate from the rest of the family, right?
Right.
Wow. That must have been a little stressful.
Yep.
Wow. Unbelievable. But everything's okay now. The whole family's good now. Everybody's good. We're on to better, greener roads.
It's only me and my wife in my house. So,
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So a summer of relaxation is on tap for you. That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the 15-hour teaching days aren't enough, right?
Right.
Excellent, excellent. Now, when this pandemic does lift sooner, hopefully sooner rather than later, and so forth, will you resume touring like you do with all the other things you used to do with the conventions and so forth? Will you be interested in doing that again?
Yeah. Probably not as much as I was.
Right.
You know, I am getting older. And, you know,
No, you're not.
I'm gonna pick and choose. You know, but I really enjoy seeing the fans, and you know, they always have so many great stories to share, and you know, they always are showing their appreciation, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough how important watching you in the ring growing up. It was just incredible. You were that mainstay. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that you were most likely a role model at that point, and it doesn't shock me that you are now a teacher and a role model to students and a role model to other students, because you know, it's very rare that wrestlers can. I think this was mentioned in your Hall of Fame speech and so forth. That balancing act of being a performer in the wrestling industry, and you didn't change very much when you went home and became a school teacher. You were Tito Santana in the ring. And you're, you know, obviously, you know, not Tito Santana out of the ring, but you were Mercedes Solis out of the ring, but the same character, the same person, and that's hard. That's hard to do.
Yes, apparently it is, you know, but for me it wasn't. You know, it's me. You know, that's who I am.
Right, and I think that's the biggest appealing factor, and that's why he was so popular. Because when Tito Santana went in the ring, you saw what you got. You went in there, your athleticism was on display. You were a gifted athlete, and to me, I look forward to all your matches. When I heard Tito Santana was on the card, I knew it was going to be a great match. You weren't that showboat. You weren't that person. You went in there. Blood and guts. That's what you got from Tito Santana, and that to me is what tells the real story about professional wrestling. Is that's what it's all about. You told the story, you wrestled your butt off, you were rewarded for it, and now you're in the Hall of Fame and so forth. And I think it's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much.
You know, so that's going to wrap it up here. I know I probably kept you on the phone too much longer, but I do want to thank you for.
Can we mention
sure.
my book?
Yeah, we'll mention it again. Sure. Don't Call Me Chico, right?
Yes, and you can go to TitoSantana.com and you'll get all the directions to order to PayPal, and you know. Right now, for what you give PayPal, I put an autographed Tito Santana 8x10 in the envelope, and I hope that we get some fans to order my book.
Definitely. I will go ahead and let my audience know about that, as you just did right there, on all social media platforms. So it's TitoSantana.com, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, and the book is called Don't Call Me Chico, which we all know was made famous by who?
Jesse the Body Ventura.
That's right. Ex-governor of Minnesota. That is correct. So awesome. So I'm very grateful for you to be on my podcast today, my very first podcast. So it is kind of like that WrestleMania match, that opening match, right?
Yes, it is. I want to wish you all the luck in the world, Joe.
All right, Tito, and I appreciate you being on here. And, for my audience, can I get that tagline one more time?
Arriba!
Arriba, there you go. All right, that was Tito Santana here on Joe Lowry's What a Day podcast. Again, I want to thank Tito Santana. And, hey, Tito.
Yes.
What a day.
What a day.
Hey, it was great to have WWE Hall of Famer Tito Santana on. He is a true gentleman in every sense of the word. I'd like to take this time to thank my audience for tuning into this broadcast. Hey, we're just starting out here, and if you have a special guest that you would like to hear on What a Day podcast, simply message me on all social media platforms at Joe Lowry What a Day. That's 2 T's for twice the fun. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. I'm Joe Lowry. What a day. Hey, everybody. This is Joe with 2-time Intercontinental Champion Tito Santana, and he's got one thing to say.
Hey, Joe. What a day. Arriba!
All right.